Hello and very warm welcome to Decision 2019, a special program where Arise News brings you up-to-the-minute coverage of the Nigerian general elections with context and perspective on the most important ballot issues. Where you might be surprised that we're still talking about the general elections because the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is the electoral umpire in Nigeria, declared some 6 state governorship elections as inconclusive, although one is being reversed and collation to be concluded in Tafawa Balewa local government area of Bauchi State. Tomorrow we'll be having the results and who will be the winner of the governorship election in Bauchi State. I am Christian Ogodo. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, top-notch comments and analysis with unrivaled insight, hindsight and foresight on Decision 2019, including Nigeria's political horizon is still awash with thick fog of the March 9, 2019 governorship and state houses of assembly elections, with some winners declared and some declared as inconclusive. A new twist was added to the inconclusive elections, like I said earlier, in Bauchi State, where the electoral umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC, says collation will resume over the results from Tafawa Balewa local government area. That decision to be concluded tomorrow, and the winner announced, is already generating a lot of unease in the camp of the ruling All Progressives Congress. Some of its governors and leaders have been making overtures to the president for his intervention, but the president has said he will not intervene and would rather allow due process to prevail. How altruistic has INEC been with the plethora of academics who have come under immense criticism for their conduct of the election? Will Kano, Sokoto, Benue, Adamawa states' inconclusive elections be reversed like that of Bauchi State and collation concluded? Or will the elections still hold as scheduled on the 23rd of March, that is next Saturday? These are some of the issues we'll be looking at on Decision 2019. Nigeria's ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, APC, is accusing the Independent National Electoral Commission of working with the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, to deny its victory in some states where supplementary elections are expected to hold next Saturday. The party rejected the Commission's decision on the results from Tafawa Balewa local government area of Bauchi State, alleging that its agents were not invited to witness the investigations conducted by the Commission. And in Benue State, according to the opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, it is clear that the people have rejected the ruling APC, as clearly demonstrated even in the presidential election. The state has always been home to the PDP. But the APC maintained that the opposition is set for humiliation in the state, saying, and I quote, "Even though the PDP claims a bogus lead of over 81,000 votes, reports strongly established that the dodgy figure is an aggregate of votes obtained by subterfuge and not from the numbers recorded by the card readers." Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission on the 12th of March, in a statement, considered the reports from the Resident Electoral Commissioner for Bauchi State over the disruption of collation process at the Tafawa Balewa Collation Center. A committee, as we all know, was set up to investigate the occurrences which led to the cancellation of the results for the entire local government. The committee discovered that result sheets were destroyed by armed gangs affecting 7 out of 11 areas of the governorship elections and 6 out of 11 for the state assembly elections. The committee has approved the resumption and conclusion of result collation in Tafawa Balewa local government area, as we said, which means a new collation and returning officer has been appointed by the commission to continue the collation process in place of the original collation officer, who withdrew following threats to her life and her family. Well, joining me now in the studios to take a look at the issues will be Austin Aigbe. He's yet to be here, but we're expecting him. He's a senior program officer at the Center for Democracy and Development, and also Barrister Ogheneovo Otemu, who is a legal practitioner with over a decade years of experience. You're welcome to the program, Ogheneovo Otemu.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, nice having you. You can see the plethora of issues that are developing over the March 9th governorship and state houses of assembly election in Nigeria, and some issues remain unresolved. But particularly of importance is the one in Bauchi State, where INEC had to reverse itself and say collation must be concluded. How significant is this in Nigeria's democratic development?
Well, I want to first of all commend INEC for taking that position because election is actually conducted polling units by polling units. And the moment results come out of the polling, even in election tribunals, what the court is supposed to look at is polling unit by polling unit. That is where elections are conducted, not at the collation centers. So having seen that at the polling units, elections have been concluded, and then results moved to the ward collation center, and even it's at the local government collation center that all the disruptions happened. It means they have results already at the polling units. They also have results already, duplicate results from which are with the agents already, and even with INEC at the ward unit. And then it's just the local government collation center that has issues. So it's just to go back and get those materials and use them to collect. Which
the returning officer for that local government did then, yes. And it was rejected by the state returning officer, yes. Overall returning officer. There was no wisdom in what he did.
No, I think why it was rejected was because the form he used. It's also, you know, electoral matters, any little thing can just
torpedo it.
Yeah, we just invalidate the result. And so the form he used was the wrong form. And that was the reason. I felt the proper thing that the state collation officer ought to have done at that point was to call for the appropriate forms and enter, which is what INEC is doing right now. They are now calling for the appropriate forms and entering the result into the appropriate forms because there are results already at that lower level.
But isn't it the same situation in Kano State with Nasarawa local government? It tempers the same indices here.
Well, in Kano State, I understand some polling units results were outrightly cancelled. And then if you calculate the number of voters, registered voters for that area, and you compare it with the difference between the PDP and the APC candidates, the number of registered voters is still more than, you know, the number of votes that is standing between them. So
it does not even matter if the number of registered voters, you know, it's more than the number of votes yet to be declared, and the registered voters, you don't even find maybe half or a quarter of them coming for the supplementary election to vote. We'll witness that in Kogi State.
Yes, it's speculative. It's speculative whether they will come or not. But even at that, I also have my query to all this, because we know that it is not the number of registered voters that actually go for the election. It is those who have their PVCs. That should be what should be used. But the law is what is applicable. We can't apply common sense at this stage. It is the law that must be applied. And the law says once the difference between the two parties is less than the number of registered voters, not the number of eligible voters. Because if we go by way of eligible voter, those who have their PVCs with them are the eligible voters.
And how are we going to determine that? Only when they vote?
So, no, not only when they vote. INEC has a list of those who collected PVCs in every polling unit. They publish those lists. INEC published that list. So that list is already there, but that is not the law. So INEC cannot make law for itself until the Electoral Act is properly amended.
I was just going to say that. So there should be an amendment.
Yes,
so
from registered, because some of the registered voters are already dead. Some are fictitious names, some are minors, so many things would have happened to that register. So the real thing that we should work with are those who are eligible to vote. And who are the people eligible to vote? Those who have their PVCs with them. But that is not the law right now. So we have to work with the law. What is the law? The number of registered voters.
Okay, let's look at some of the overtures already being made to Mr. President by the leadership, of the All Progressives Congress, and even some of the governors. They've turned the villa to a sort of mecca, trying to lobby Mr. President that, look, you have to intervene in this well, I don't know if I have to use the word dwindling fortunes of the party in the governorship election. And Mr. President is saying, look, let due process prevail. I'm not going to intervene.
For me, that is the proper thing that a president should do. In fact, he's doing the right thing at the moment. He is the president not to just the party at the moment, but to the whole nation. And, his posture is a man of integrity. Is a man who stands against corruption or any ill practice. And so it is proper for him to take the posture that he is taking. Let them go to the field. Let the election be properly conducted. And whoever wins should be declared. Instead of having the president, okay, what do you want the president to do? To deploy military that we are condemning? Or is it to call on INEC chairman to say, declare somebody winner? No. So the decision the president has taken is the proper decision that the president should take. A president that wants to stand by rule of law, that wants to really show to the world that he's a man of integrity, which he is. I think that's the proper thing that he should do, and I will stand by him on that decision, not to intervene with the electoral process. He has no business with the electoral process. The electoral process is for INEC, which is supposed to be independent. And so we cannot say INEC is independent, and we are calling on, because we are not doing well, we are calling on the president to come and intervene. So it is proper for the president to take the posture that he has taken, and that's the best thing to do in the democratic setting.
How really independent would you say INEC has been in this general election process? Because there have been, hue and cry complaints here and there of certain shoddiness in the conduct of the elections, and different parties accusing INEC too of some level of ineptitude, undue interference, and delay in announcing certain results that have now led to the issue of supplementary elections.
Well, for me, to a large extent, INEC is independent, because we saw it in the postponed election, where the president, the whole world understood that even the president was not even aware that an election was to be postponed. So it shows that the INEC is actually independent. But, of course, they are Nigerians like us, and they are humans like us. The people that INEC has appointed to oversee the electoral process, they are humans. And so there is this possibility of being, the tendency of being compromised. And that is what we saw in so many of the elections that just went through. So that does not really say because some of the electoral officers have compromised themselves, then it means that independent National Electoral Commission is not independent. It is independent.
Isn't it capable of eroding the trust and confidence of the people in such a commission?
Yes, even the president,
I mean, a commission that you have loads of academics, professors, and the rest, and sometimes they can't even put a simple 2 + 2 together to find a difference in results and figures.
That is a problem we have in this country. That it now shows that to be somebody of integrity, or the person of integrity, it does not mean the education, the level of education you acquired, because all the professors failed us. In fact, it got to a point, even in just to mention simple numbers that a primary school student should, just read through with ease. They were finding it very difficult, just because, not because they cannot read through, but because of what has transpired. So that you are a professor does not make you a man of integrity, and that is what this electoral process, and indeed not just this one, all the electoral processes we have been going through, we have had professors all through. Don't forget, all INEC has been led by professors all through, and all state electoral returning officers are professors, and also they come and then
some of them vice chancellors.
Vice chancellors, you understand? So they now come and we start hearing that elections are not properly conducted, that the electoral officers have compromised, it shows that education has no business to do with integrity.
So would you, so like some Nigerians are suggesting now that, maybe we'll bring our religious leaders, the imams and the pastors and the rest, you know. At least they would have the fear of God and the fear of Allah.
Some will even tell you, if you want to push it that further, some will tell you we should bring the native doctors, because they say God will forgive easy. But the native doctor, that one takes you very fast. So maybe that's what we should. But it's worrisome. It's not, it's pathetic. The level we have gotten to, calling ourselves giants of Africa, the greatest, largest black nation in the world, we ought to have gone beyond this level. For somebody to be given a responsibility and he will just, disgrace himself and disgrace the whole nation, and it's entirely worrisome. And these are people who should be role model to the society, to the younger ones. So what do you expect the youths? And we keep blaming the youths. What do you expect? If professors can do what they have done, compromise process given to them without interference from even the president, and you saw the president will complain at some point. So if they can do that, then it's a threat to our society, really.
It bespeaks of the developmental and democratic strides and growth that we crave for.
Yes,
so
exactly.
We're regressing?
Yeah, to a large extent, yes, we are. We are, because over time, elections are we are nosediving from every 4 years to every 4 years, where the thing is going worse, and this election has been adjudged the worst so far, everywhere, even in the international community. So it's worrisome. We think we need to really sit down, and I believe that after the inauguration of the 9th Assembly, they should sit down, proper laws should be looked at, and maybe just like the INEC chairman cried out to them when he was issuing the certificate of return to them, they should sit down and really do the Electoral Act. I think what is causing all this is because of loopholes that are in the Electoral Act and even in the Constitution. So some of these loopholes should be looked at and proper laws made to correct them.
But if there are no lacunas, you lawyers will go hungry. Where are you going to now defend, have clients to defend at the electoral tribunals?
No, that is not the proper consideration. Once there are two people conflicting, we must come in as lawyers to defend them.
The moment you have a perfect law, then there will be no conflict anymore.
No. If there is perfect law, the economy will develop well, the society will develop well, and it will benefit us better. You won't tell me now that the lawyer in Nigeria is benefiting better than the lawyer in America, or in Canada, or in the UK.
But we know all the humongous monies you make from politicians going to court is millions when they come to, seek your legal advice.
Yes, I agree. And then when you are kidnapped, because the society is not properly governed, the economy is bad, and you suffer a kidnap situation like some senior advocate had in the past, you will see waste the whole of that money for criminals. So it is better for our electoral system to be properly cleaned, let the system be allowed to run properly, and let a sane society, let Nigeria experience a level of sane society.
Okay, Barrister Ogheneovo Otemu, we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll continue to look at the indices generating a lot of political fog in the horizon in Nigeria. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to Decision 2019, where we'll provide context and perspective on the most important issues around Nigeria's general election. I am Christian Ogodo, and thanks for staying with us. Now, we've been joined now by Austin Aigbe, the senior program officer with the Center for Democracy and Development. Thanks for joining us. Okay. Let's look at in Rivers State, the commission, that is INEC, on the 10th of March, suspended the electoral processes on the grounds of widespread disruption of results collation. INEC says the collation centers were invaded by soldiers and armed gangs, which resulted in the intimidation and unlawful arrest of election officials, causing the disruption in the collation process. The Commission has expressed its displeasure with the role played by some soldiers and armed gangs in the state, which led to the disruption of the collation process and attempting to subvert the will of the people in the state. The Commission says it is determined to complete the collation process and will engage security agencies at the national level and the Interagency Consultative Committee at the state level to ensure neutrality and professionalism of security personnel. Gentlemen, very worrisome development in Nigeria's electoral process. The INEC, in its investigation, has come to the conclusion that the military, descended to the arena, to the fray, when they're supposed to be impartial and safeguard the process. How despicable can such a situation be than this?
Well, for me, I'm happy that, and that's, like I said before, goes to show that INEC is actually independent right now, because the military is also an agency of government, a key agency of government, and for INEC to actually come out to indict the military for the wrong they have done to the nation, I think I want to commend INEC for that. And for the military, it is totally wrong for what they have done. They are supposed to defend the integrity of this nation, not to embarrass the nation to the extent that they did in Rivers State. It was a very great embarrassment to the nation. For them, it was a coup. I call it a coup. It just reminded me of those days when the military used to come in and take over power from.
It was an interregnum of the electoral process.
Exactly. So the Chief of Army Staff should, for the rerun election, call his men to order and should not allow them to be used. It's not only the military, we're also ahead of SARS. SARS, even though the police was commended to a large extent for the role they played, but the SARS aspect of the police also behaved like the military. The shootings, some of the shootings we saw were done actually by SARS, not by the military. But the military should only act to the extent that they are requested to act by the INEC chairman or by INEC. It is not for the military to, take the laws into their hands and act beyond what INEC has asked them to do, which is just to protect INEC facilities. That's all INEC demanded from them. But for them to now go into election collation centers, chase away collation officers, and the allegations that military were writing results, for me, it's embarrassing to the nation. And like they have been saying right now, there's a presumption that the military will not do that right now. It's like they have retracted their steps and will want to do the right thing at least for the rerun elections.
Well, retracting their steps, the military high command has set up a probe panel to look into the allegations of military involvement in subverting the electoral process and dashing the hopes and the will of the people to, participate in the democratic process without any hindrances. What's the field reports, the final one that you probably have gotten from the CDD?
So, just to state that we have always said we do not support military intervention in our process. It's a civil exercise. It's supposed to be done by a civil authority, which is the police. And consistently, we have come out loudly to criticize military intervention. But to now that the military already intervened and you are setting up a committee or whatever to probe, it is an afterthought. At Benisho, there was no ground for involvement, because Section 29, Subsection 3 of the Electoral Act clearly put electoral day security in the hands of INEC. And that INEC is the one responsible for calling in when it is important. And INEC has not called in the military at all, not in Rivers, not in Imo, not anywhere around the state. So what we're saying is, somebody has written, even though it looks so laughable, that under General Brutai, those atrocities were committed. So under the same general, a committee is being set up to look at the same issue. So who will police the police in this scenario? So we think a first point is to see that as we head towards the supplementary election or rerun elections on Saturday, let's start to look at the forgiveness from there. Let's note that across Sokoto, Adamawa, Bauchi, not in Bauchi, Kano, Benue, Plateau, there is no military deployment. I mean, the military is off the arena of the electoral process. I mean, in almost all of the states, including Benue, there are already military deployment because of security reasons, but not for election day activities. So we must clearly state it clearly, because people argue that they are already military in those states. Yes, there are military in those states, but they are performing a different task. So let them stay within the task they are performing. They must not leave those tasks. Look at what happened in Kano. I mean, Kaduna just a few days ago, yesterday or so, the killings. That's the kind of deployment the military will be deployed to perform those security jobs, not necessarily for election day security. So as we head towards, I mean, when the barrister was talking about SARS in Rivers, I'm happy in your statement a few minutes ago, you talked about armed gangs. In my opinion, those so-called SARS with mufti uniforms, not uniform, with mufti, cannot be called police officers, cannot be called SARS, because they are not properly identified. So those actually can be tagged as armed gang, because they had arms in their hands, they were wearing civilian uniform, apparently shooting, and they can do anything. But for the ones that wore military uniform, camouflage, or the green uniform, or the ones that wore Air Force uniform, as alleged by the PRO of the state NEC, even though there's a new statement that those people may not be Air Force personnel. So those people who apparently wore Air Force uniform at INEC may also be armed gangs. But it is important we investigate them. It is important we bring them to book. Until we truly do that, our election will continue to be militarized.
Are you worried about the security situation in the states where we're going to be having supplementary election with a kind of hindsight that happened in Rivers State and some other states?
Yes, I am worried. That's why I would disagree, or rather tend to not support one of his positions, when he said military should be pulled out. We really need military, to be very frank. As somebody who is from the Niger Delta region, we know ourselves. It's not that we don't need the military on the election days. We need the military on election days, but not in election duties. Not to the extent that they will come close to pulling units. Because if the military are not deployed to those areas, we know what can happen. The real criminals will come and still do what the military, because the people who deploy the military to come and write results can actually deploy militants to do the same thing. So we need military, but what should the military do? Like in your opening remark, they should act professionally. And what is just to protect the environment, protect facilities, ensure that criminals are not allowed to go around freely and destroy elections, or manipulate elections. They should be around, safeguard the environment, just like we saw in Lagos during the election when some gangs came, took out ballot boxes and was burning ballot without if there was no security person,
no intervention,
no challenge. But if we had police or security soldiers on that street, it would have scared them to a large extent. So I'm of the view that the deployment of the military is not the problem, but their actions, the way they conducted themselves was the problem. They should be made to conduct themselves professionally. Anyone that goes beyond the mandate given to them, or their mandate, their statutory mandate, should be called to question and punished, just like Barr has now started doing. But that we should not have military around, that would be very... A
judge in its own case? That's a judge advocate?
Yes, I agree with you that he's going out to be a judge. But again, even the state governor has said, like, for instance, in Rivers State, has said he's going to also set up his own commission of inquiry. So by the time all the commissions of inquiry, both the one from military and the one from the state is coming out, we'll really see what actually transpired and move forward. But for the rerun election, I support deployment of military, but for them to be giving clear directives. Do not interfere with the electoral process. Yours is to stay around and protect the environment. Let people come out without harassing them. Because in Kaduna on the election day, we were hearing a report at the initial stage that military men were blocking the road, for blocking voters who were going to Kaduna South to vote. These were reports that came. So they should stay clear from all that. It is only when they suspect that criminal actions are going to be taken place, that it should come out. So we need the military in the election, but not to be in election.
So just to be clear, the sections are clear. Yeah. 21.3 state categorically that on the invitation.
Yes.
So when you talk about the military going in, there is no outcome of professional guidance you give to the military officials without them playing the responsibility that has been given to them by any other person. So what we are saying is the military has already been deployed across 34 states of the Federation. Their presence is already everywhere. You go around every state of the Federation, from the south to the east to the north, you're going to see military presence. They are performing the security job. Security job go beyond election day security. Exactly. So when you talk about election day deployment, it's a different ballgame. We are saying the election day deployment is not it's a no-no until they are invited into the scenario. What they did in Rivers, like now we are using Rivers as a case study, that the military went ahead to block the collation center, depriving electoral officials from accessing their center. That's barbaric. So no sane person will agree to that phenomenon that happened on that day. So what we are saying is that you can't keep out the military because they're already there. Across in the creek, they are there. In Bayelsa, they are there. You go to Ogbeya, they are everywhere. They are in Edo, they are in Delta, they are in Bayelsa, they are in Ondo, they are in Kaduna, they are in Sokoto, they are in Kano. They are everywhere already. But what can they do? Provide support. In fact, that's a clear word. Yes. And the authority responsible is the police. And we must keep it at that so that, like you already used the word coup. Because what happened in Rivers was close to being called a coup, because the military took over the civil process. And I like the statement made by the REC of Akwa Ibom, when he said that he is in Akwa Ibom to conduct election, to count vote and not to count money. That this is a civil exercise and not a military war or not a military environment. So when we support military intervention, we give them some level of impetus to begin to engage. We must criticize their involvement. That's what we're saying.
And elections still took place in some parts of Rivers, but INEC is here to come to a decision to announcing those results. The parties have been, making a lot of noise about that. Why is INEC holding back the declaration of at least the results collated so far that it has? Can there be any genuine reason for that?
Well, for me, I feel INEC is under obligation to declare those results in those areas where election was properly conducted. So they are under obligation to do that. They cannot hold back. But the problem here is, if you look at the whole of Rivers State, there's apparently nowhere there was no crisis. You don't understand? There's nowhere there was no crisis. All the 6 local governments where elections have been cancelled, there were issues in these 6 local governments. So if you refuse to, if you say you want to declare in one local government and leave the other local government, on what basis? APC will tell you that we won here. PDP will tell you they won on the other one. So if you declare one and leave the other one, it means you are not being fair to the party. So those local governments where we experienced militarization, disturbances, crisis, it is only fair that the elections in those 6 local governments be cancelled, be reconducted under a fair atmosphere. And like he said, military should be around. Like the military has been asked by INEC to come and assist. It's not as if there was no demand for military. The only problem here is where military took it to, the level they took their intervention to, INEC didn't ask them to get to that aspect. Exactly. On that we all agree. So what I'm saying now is, Army, please, if INEC has invited you into this, act up to that extent, which is just to secure their facilities, secure the state or the environment, so that people can vote. But to now participate in the voting exercise to the extent of even touching a returning officer, electoral officer, they have no business with that. Police unit, they have no business with that. But the surrounding, they can hang around the surrounding so that criminals who ought to have come to snatch ballot box or cause mayhem or disrupt elections, you apprehend them and you deal with them.
Yeah. So Agbe, tell us from your field officers and the rest. Yes, elections didn't hold in some places because of the disturbances that were held, but held peacefully in other places in Rivers State. I'm asking, why is INEC withholding the results of those places?
So INEC is not withholding those results. There was a panel set up to look at what has happened in Rivers, and according to Section 27 of the Electoral Act, it gives that where elections did not hold, presuppose that there was either natural disaster or violence or whatever, election did not hold. There's a difference between election holding and election not holding at all. So when elections have held, you are no longer talking about not holding. So it had held. So you move beyond that, then you're talking about maybe violence action that disrupted the process at the polling unit. If voting actually took place at those polling units and it moved to word collation, it's a different ballgame. So for areas where elections did not hold at all, for example, in Akoko-Toro and elsewhere where those polls did not hold. So what is going to happen, as INEC has put the agreement, is that they have suspended the suspension of the collation process, because they were already at the collation point when they suspended those actions. So they are going back to that point where that action was suspended to continue the process, just the same thing that is happening in Bauchi tomorrow. So they are going to continue, collect the results that have come in. Then they need to now check the margin of vote between the first runner-up, the winner, and the second runner-up, if it makes sense that the vote cancelled all the polling units and the local government where polling did not hold. The number of those registered voters makes sense that if you add them up, it's sufficient enough to sway the vote between the winner and the second runner-up. You declare the election inconclusive. However, inconclusive election, which is in the guideline of INEC, which is not necessarily an electoral act concern. It's a guideline put in place by INEC, administrative policy, to ensure the smooth process of our election. Inconclusive nature of our election has become a weapon in the hands of politicians to square electoral processes. So when they know that they are already losing and there are more local government to come in or more coalition to come in, what you do is to move ahead there and disrupt the process. For example, Kano process was already on. It was to be declared. Then the Nasarawa local government, we were on air here that night when the deputy governor was apparently arrested, even though the police came out later, it was not an arrest, that they took him for safekeeping. So an attempt was made on the local government collation center to cancel those polls because they already know that the opponent is winning. So it has become a weapon. We must find a process of, until we truly punish people. All of these amendment, electoral act amendment, now we are now clamoring for another level of amendment. The more amendment, the more politicians are skillful. So, but what we mean is that we need to punish people. When you keep a politician behind bar for 4 years, he's not around the political scene for 4 years. When he comes out, he's going to think well, to say, wow, I need not do this again because I don't want to go back. You'll be missing your family for 4 years. So until there are sincere action, meanwhile, and again, INEC do not have the capacity to deploy security. It relies on another authority who has another authority. So, for example, the police is not under INEC. The police is under the commander-in-chief. The army is not under INEC. The army is under the commander-in-chief. The commander-in-chief gives instruction, and those agencies run with it. So, for example, when the president made a statement, even though it was, people say the army may construe the statement that whoever steals ballot board will be paying at the detriment of his own life. Then we saw actual shootout, killings of ballot box snatchers. But in many other areas like Lagos, we just referred, we saw that it was happening in full glare.
It was another of the day.
Exactly. And it was happening in a specific area. So that explains some kind of political narrative in the course of the discussion about inconclusiveness. When you cancel polling units, when you cancel local government coalition, the next question is, who has those votes? If it belongs to the opposition, then there's a problem. If it belongs to the majority party and the majority party is the one losing, that kind of math, then there's a problem. We need to begin to mark out those narratives and then put it out. But sincerely, it has become a weapon to undermine process, so that you saw what happened on Osun election. You cancel a few polling units after the fact, because when I mean the fact, polling unit is where vote took place. You don't, if the vote were counted at the polling unit, and because at the polling unit, the winner is declared, but not returned. So they say party A scored XYZ vote, party B scored XYZ vote. They announce formally, and the people in that polling unit know the party that has won. Then they collate those results to the ward collation. They collect all of those results, and the returning officer at the collation point also declare the results. When you have passed these two stages, you don't now move to the local government and be cancelling results.
Austin, that was passed in Kano State.
Exactly.
It was passed.
It has passed polling units.
So why is INEC asking for supplementary elections there?
That is why we say it's a weapon. That's why we are saying it's a weapon. It's becoming a weapon because how can you cancel polling unit? There was no violence. There was adequate use of
the results were
the result had moved.
Yeah.
So why would you cancel collation? Because it was disrupted. Let me tell you what happened in Bauchi. Bauchi result, from ECC, that's ABC, was scattered away. And the returning officer wrote it in another sheet.
Yeah.
And that was the reason for the cancellation.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But now, based on law, there was results at the polling unit. He moved to the ward, get back to those figures and rewrite this result.
That was what the returning officer in Bauchi, the lady did until her life was, being put on the line, and she said no.
Exactly. So now, what happened in Kano ought not to have happened by Bauchi stance.
The electoral officer, returning officer rather, in Kano had announced in the hall that they were going to rely on primary data.
Oh, primary data. Primary data, because the primary data is a polling unit, the ward and when you collect the two, they are consistent, because you can only cancel polling unit results, not local government results.
Yeah.
Because the local government result is an addition.
What is the legal implication in all this? It's like our electoral laws, our electoral law is not really being tested in the courts. The issue of these inconclusive results and the rest. We're not seeing anything to test, the law in the courts.
Well, the issue of inconclusiveness has not been properly tested. Even though they tried to do it in Falake's case in Kogi State, but the law at that time did not also help matters. In Osun State, it was not tested. It was it was after the election that the petition went through, and that issue of inconclusiveness did not come up. But I understand in Sokoto State, Tambo has gone to court to test it, and we want to see how, because I agree with him to a large extent. Election is conducted, even in the election petition tribunal, by the time you prove it, the court will tell you election is conducted polling unit by polling unit. And so the moment the presiding officer, the most important officers in election are supposed to be the presiding officers, not the returning officers. Because what is happening today, the politicians even ignore the presiding officers. They go to the returning officers and then compromise the returning officers. Returning officers will now fill into their forms what did not come from the polling unit, which is the problem. So until we really go and rely fully on the polling unit results, the moment result is declared at the polling unit, that should be it. Everybody should be bound by it. And in fact, if there is any issue, we should call back the polling unit results until we start doing that. And that was why, well, it's unfortunate that the last electoral act amendment came a little bit too late, and the president was unable to assent to it because it was really late in the day. So,
would it have really would that amendment to the electoral act
yes,
made
there were
much difference?
There were sessions that would have actually helped to cure so many of these problems. For instance, you transmit your result directly from the polling unit. So once one result is transmitted from the polling unit, then that automatically becomes result. So until we start really relying on polling unit results, we'll be having issues, because electoral
you transmit electronically, right?
Yes, you transmit. Not just electronically. There will be the hard copy. The electronic transmission will only be a counter copy.
Because I know Nigerians have been having hiccups too, particularly in internet banking and the rest, where you find hackers. I mean, to hack a system now, it's
it's very simple,
very easy, and the rest.
Don't forget the presiding officer and the polling unit agents will sign
the hard
copy. So the electronic copy is just there to corroborate the hard copy. It's not as if the electronic copy will work on its own. Of course, the real one that should be relied on is actually the hard copy that everybody signed. The electronic one is just to show that, yes, this thing has gone. And of course, don't forget, there will be accreditation. So the electronic transmission will show the number of voters that were actually accredited as against what is obtainable.
So that enhances the transparency of
in the whole system. Yes.
I don't know if Austin, you know, buy into this.
So, what the innovation was that we maintain the process that goes by this analog, but in order to fast track this process, you after the polling has taken place at the polling unit, you scan the results. Because where the scan result is not attached to the online transfer, you can only act figure. You cannot act the scanned copy. That's the mindset. Unlike people who argue about the Russian influence in American election, that's clearly digital. It's all about figure. You can block midway, manipulate the process, and then you release out the final result that goes out is the one that's been manipulated. So, but what happened is that when you scan, you attach, then you record using the smart card reader. You press, each of the party pop up, you enter their score, the party agent is looking at the result entered, then you press OK. Then it goes. Even though it doesn't go because of internet availability in most of the area, because of 2G or 3G and all of that, once you are traveling,
yes, once you get to network,
it goes out. You have already sent it. It's like you're sending a text message until you get to a network location. It may still be hanging on your phone. Once you get to that network location, it goes up. But I am still saying, with all this beautiful innovation, whether you call it transmission electronically or whatever, the politician will then begin to target the polling unit. You see, one of the reasons why...
Not the former transmission, omission, and transmission and the rest.
Not the returning officer.
No, not the returning officer. So now you begin to target the polling unit. By the time you see that you already lost that polling unit, then you mobilize to make sure that nothing like that transmission happened. So you destroy the process and make sure that it's over. Don't forget that we may be back to where we are coming from, where polling units were manipulated, scattered, and all of that. Politicians learning from that process improved, and that's what led us to vote buying. I know there are a lot of administrative rules, procedure by INEC to correct using the guideline. But the more they correct, the more these politicians learn the process, and then you suck those process. You maybe just also say that for the first time now, we are beginning to see a new administrative procedure in Imo State with the non-issuance of the certificate to the
Okorocha. Yeah. Because he was alleged to have kidnapped the returning officer. So why would he get
no, but it is
certificate of return?
It is nowhere in the law. It is nowhere in the Electoral Act. It is nowhere in the guideline. When you make, I'm not speaking because sometimes I know what INEC has done is on moral ground. But ideally, when you read the result under duress, you already have announced publicly.
Yeah. Once you declare.
So at the point of reading that result, you would have said, well, before I read this result, I am under duress. I don't want to read it.
There is a caveat.
So you state it before, not after the fact. So now that you have gone ahead to the INEC administrative procedure cannot be used to cure legal jargon or legal gaps. I mean, the lawyer is here.
But on this one, I think the returning officer in that case, before declaring the result, first of all stated clearly that he was doing it under duress.
He called his rec.
Yes.
To say that first he was being for more than 24, 48 hours.
Yes.
He was kidnapped. Yes.
And
I'm sure you have the report.
So when he was to declare, he also said he was doing it under duress. He said so. So, but again, I agree with you that the law. What is the law? The law is once you declare, you cannot go back to it. So that is the law.
But now, you see, I'd asked on this program, and I asked a lawyer, where does discretion or discretionary issues can be challenged in a legal process?
Well, like what
INEC has done
is a discretion
that
has gone beyond their power. The law did not give them the power to exercise that discretion, to be honest. Yes, kidnapping a returning officer and forcing him to declare result is very wrong, condemnable. If I'm rigging an election and getting victory, it's not only Okorocha's one that is bad. All the elections that were rigged that some persons are going to court today, and we have to condemn all of them equally because
Okorocha is there to go to court.
Yes, but I haven't declared Okorocha. What is the law? The law is that the other parties, you want to get your mandate back, you go to court, go through.
But Okorocha is going to be asked now to go to court.
That is the problem.
It's going to be forced.
That is the problem. No, he will be forced to go to court, and I am very sure the court will naturally declare the action of INEC illegal, null and void. It is wrong. It is illegal.
That is if the other parties are not, if they are not going to join as joinders.
Even if they join as joinder, you can only challenge that election in the election petition tribunal as it is.
So that one is not a tribunal matter.
No, it's not. Just like the one we had when Akpabio went to one court in the FCTA to get an order. In fact, when we heard it, it was we cried. We practically cried for Nigeria.
And
a judge, not just a lawyer.
A lawyer took him
first,
there.
the lawyer took the matter there. You know, in sane societies, that lawyer should be punished. Then a judge sat.
You won't do it in New York, for example.
A judge sat. First, you know that you must first of all look at the process. Do I have jurisdiction?
Absolutely.
Now, a FCT High Court is a state court. They have no business with the administrative activities of a federal agency, which like INEC. Now, you know that this is an administrative act of a federal agency, that you have no power to listen to its matter. You went into the fray and went as far as to even declare, make an order. And then when it boomeranged, immediately they withdrew the case and have it struck out. They would have gone on. Let's see where they would have gone. You know, so where Akpabio should go to is election. If he believes that his mandate has been taken from him, stolen from him, you go to election petition. Once the result has been declared, the only place you can go to is election petition tribunal, not the conventional court.
Okay, so you see what has happened in Imo, for example. We are wasting a lot of time on legal processes. One, Okorocha will go to court, like Barrister said, he's going to get it freely, making INEC almost like a non-entity in that case. Then the opponent who alleges a lot of misnomer, irregularity in the process, is going to go to a tribunal. Then there are two cases running on the same matter. So if, I mean, it doesn't make sense. What would have happened is to immediately, if there, of course, there's a duress, you declare the election under duress, to having already stated it out, then you become, when it's time, you are subpoenaed into your witness.
INEC is going to be party in
the electoral tribunal. Then you go in there and announce, and then the process goes. Then we are teaching people who will need to capture returning officers under duress to make certain claim for the future.
Yes.
But now what we are doing now is giving duress strategy another opportunity.
Let's quickly look at one of the states that we're going to have this supplementary election on Saturday. In fact, Kano, Benue, the reports we are getting is that they are on edge. You know, the tension is really palpable there. The people are edgy, you know, in Kano. And the votes being contested there, close to another 60 or so thousand, if not more. Yeah, about 65,000. What are your takes here, quickly? We just got to about 2 minutes.
Yeah, for me, I think that in order to maintain peace in Kano, specifically, let me stay with Kano, is that we must avoid the kind of scenario in Lagos, in Rivers. We must avoid the kind of scenario in Osun election. We must be very careful because these are two different locations. These are two different people. There are people who are more violent in nature, who want to protect their mandate, highly political, high level of awareness, and Kano is one of those states with a very strong conviction for whoever leads them at the gubernatorial level.
Ogheneovo, what do you think? Or you want to look at Benue State?
Well, Benue, we have seen, Benue is a very serious one too, to the extent the PDP is coming up with top men to be their party agents.
Yes.
So it's a very serious one. But like you said, Kano is an area I'm really worried about. they should just, I think INEC should just allow INEC and security agencies should allow the proper thing to play out so that we will not go into the Boko Haram template in Kano.
All right. Gentlemen, very warm appreciation for coming on today's edition of Decision 2019. Barrister Ogheneovo Otemu is a lawyer of more than a decade experience at the Barr, and our usual friend, Austin Aigbe, Senior Program Officer with the Center for Democracy and Development. Thanks very, very much for being part of it.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Well, that's it for this edition of Decision 2019. Remember to join us again for a fresh edition tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thanks for watching.